Just to toss it up a bit.
Woo!
There's Rain.
There I am. My name is Rain Hampton, and I had weight loss surgery 10 years ago last December. Seems like it was just yesterday that I was contemplating the decision. I lost 125 pounds, and I keep it off, and I kept it off within about 8 to 10 pounds. And I would have to say that my first moment came the day at the hospital. Back then, 10 years ago, I also only had the choice of a gastric bypass, and it was also open. It was a
You
big.
too.
I do have a scar. No
Let's
nude,
go,
no
baby.
nude dancing.
We could be twins.
But we could.
Yeah.
But the night we had to spend the night before in the hospital,
That's right.
and my husband was with me that night, and he said, "Are you okay?" And he was a little bit nervous because it wasn't out there very often, and people were still not having the greatest luck with it. 10 years ago, it wasn't something that you heard about very often. I did also hear about Carmen Wilson, and I was really scared. And I said, I'm scared. And he said, let's just leave. And all of a sudden, I thought, if I leave, then instead of having this operation to lose weight, which was going to give me a chance, I was looking at back surgery and knee surgery. And I thought, one way or another, I'm going to have an operation. I'm just going to have to do this. And I stopped being scared. And I had the operation, and I lost the weight. And I couldn't believe how many things happened to me having lost the weight. Self-confidence, although I've never been shy. In that picture, I'm starting another weight loss program, and I was doing a before and after picture. I was 267 there. My highest charted weight was 296. I'm sure I was 300 at some point. The day of surgery, I was 285. And so I had lost 11 pounds before that, so I counted 125, 10 to 11. But anyway, so probably the most important things that happened to me after having weight loss surgery was finding that I needed support. And so I started, I had a few people that I knew through a website called thinnertimes.com, which was my bariatric surgeon's website. And we discussed different things on that little forum, and one of those things was needing to have support. So someone said, well, we'll host it if you have it at your house. And so I started having this meeting at my house. Well, that couple ended up getting married and moved off, and here I had, a year later, had lost my weight, or most of it, and I thought, well, what are we going to do now? They're leaving. And everyone said, well, let's just keep having it, and you lead it. And I thought, wow, okay. So I started leading this group because I noticed people coming in, and they were, newbies, and I actually had something to offer them. And the more that happened, the more I realized my group was growing, and it was like this little family. And then one day I got a phone call from my bariatric surgeon wondering what the heck I was doing, and I thought I was in trouble. But I wasn't in trouble. In fact, he was getting good news from his patients that there was this great meeting happening. And what it was is a bunch of people with like minds, with like desires, and like needs. And we started supporting each other. With that being said, he started asking me if I would be involved with his practice, and so I became board-credentialed health and wellness coach with an emphasis on bariatrics and food, and moved into a career that I didn't think I was going to be having. But my probably biggest, wildest moment came a couple years ago when I was at my yearly physical with my doctor. And little old Rain still wants to be different than she is, and once in a while it comes back in, and I asked her, should I lose more weight? And she said, look at your chart. You've been the same weight within 3 pounds for 8 years. I wish all my patients could be like that. And all of a sudden I felt thin enough. And I feel fabulous, I feel healthy. My back and my knees are better. They're not perfect. I carried that 300 pounds for 15 years, but it's okay. Those are some of my biggest moments, and also paying it forward. So every month when I sit in a pre-op meeting or I do a support class, and I see all those wide-eyed people hoping that this is going to be their opportunity, if I could shed a little light on them and say, this is your opportunity. It's not the magic pill, it's not a magic answer, you do have to work it, and if I can just share that, then I feel that that's achieving my wildest dreams. Thank you.
I'm gonna be loud. Sandy's gonna be loud. Make sure and talk loud so the video camera can.
I'm loud. Everybody knows I'm
You
loud.
go, girl.
I'm Rosemary. I'm gastric growth. That's me over there. And I have a twin sister. She's over there. She was the first recipient for the WLSFA.
The LSF grant.
And I just want to start by saying that I'm so blessed to see all of you here. Even the ones that are willing to stand for us. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you. The highest I was 487. I thought I had clocked in at 447, but the employer that I worked for 25 years, I'm also very faithful in my job. I was a school teacher. She pointed out that she had papers stating that I was 487. And the one thing that I thought when she had to present that, you know, some people are themselves and, you know, they're going to tell you things that you don't really want to hear. But she says, don't you realize you were 487? I have it documented. I thought, what did she think of me? How could she remember that number? And not only did she remember the number, but her children remembered the number. So I had to have been in the conversation, you know, for them to know. People are seeing you. Sometimes I thought I was invincible. I thought I did not see how big I was. I didn't think people saw how big I was. But I was huge. You know, I was huge. And when I see myself today at 180, I've gone down as low as in the 40s. But I don't ever stay there. My body seems to be happy here. I think that our bodies kind of have a memory of when it was, but since I've never been small in my whole entire life, it doesn't remember where it needs to be. But when I first came to a meet and greet, it wasn't the WLSFA, it wasn't happening yet. We got a bunch of YouTubers, and we decided we were going to meet up. And I had a conversation in a hotel room with a wonderful person. She was my friend, and she allowed me to be there because I didn't have the funds to come to the meet and greet. And her husband and they said, "Oh no, Mama Rose has got to be there." You know, so they made my way there. I sat in the room, and they didn't know much about my twin. And they said, "Well, where's she and what was she doing?" And I said, "You know, she weighs 347 pounds. She's been denied 10 times. I had gastric bypass within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks. I had tried everything to lose the weight, and I did do very well with the Atkins. That's how I started. And to make a long story short, I had gastric bypass through a doctor that said, "Honey, it's not you. Your body needs assistance, and I'm going to give you that."
Mm-hmm.
And our insurance was going to lapse within 2 weeks. And he said, "If you've been approved, if you can just lose some weight so that I can lift your liver, you know, and I want to do it, how does he say that?
Laparoscopic.
Laparoscopic.
I want to do it that way, and I think that it would benefit you because that way you don't, the insurance, if it lapsed, you know, whatever." I said, "Okay." So I started myself. I lost 20 pounds. That's the only time I lost 20 pounds. It was all water though. But anyway, but I did it. And I had the surgery. And I know I'm going back and forth, but I was given this story. I was telling the story to Anthony and Jim. And I was telling them about how I didn't feel that I could live my life without my twin. There was no way that I was feeling the freedom, and yet she was still trapped. And every time I felt that, every time I would go on a walk, or every time I went to Six Flags, I didn't even want to tell her because I was joyful. I was finally living a life of freedom. And that's what I say. I don't talk about the scale anymore or anything like that. It's freedom. Anything you can do. If I can sit here between these two people, and my hips are still, you know, at least trying not to touch them. Antonia, and Jim says, we have got to do something about it. If you all know Jim, Jim's just like, you've got to do something about it. And of course, I've heard that before, you know, people always want to do something about it.
And
A week later-
what was born out of all of this?
A week later, she calls me and says, Rosemary, are you willing to volunteer? I'm gonna start an organization, and the first recipient will be your sister. And I said, saying that, I'm gonna tell you that the biggest, I don't know if it, did you say a non-scale victory or the biggest?
Never in my wildest dreams.
Never in my wildest dreams, I am finally living my dream. My dream was to walk side by side with my sister and be able to live in freedom for the first time with my twin. And I'm doing that today. It's not about how tiny I get. It's not about, you know, it's about embracing today and forgetting tomorrow and going on tomorrow. I mean, yesterday and going on tomorrow. So
Gotcha.
that's what, you know. And of course, everybody knows I will say a quote. If I could say anything to someone that's starting, first of all, embrace today. Embrace your body today. Do not loathe your body, because believe me, you're going to have this journey for a long time. If you don't know how to love you today, at whatever your weight is, you will not love yourself at the goal that you encounter.
Thank you, Rose.
Don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to the person you see in the mirror.
Well, I can promise one thing and not promise another thing. My first promise is I will not make anybody cry. If you need a touch-up, my friends are selling makeup right out there. The thing I can't guarantee is I had VSG surgery January of 2013 and laparoscopically, and I have no scars, so there might be a lot of new dancing in my Don't have to ask me twice.
Don't tell them.
I'm first.
So I mentioned, so I'm the guy up there, and I'm Kirk. I had surgery a little bit over 2 years ago, so I'm not quite the veteran as my esteemed panelists here. And it's all very esteemed, yeah. It's very impressive, and you know, you guys are sort of my dream. So you know, my success is always going to be defined on how long this journey lasts for me, and sort of maintain that. But when you ask me to be on the panel and ask me about an NSV or never in my wildest dreams, the first thing that comes to mind, people may say, oh, I went skydiving, or I got pregnant. Well, that one's not going to work for me.
Harvard will pay you a lot of money if you can.
Yeah. But when I just sat there and kind of thought about it, I said, in my wildest dreams, I would have never thought that there would have been something that worked for me, where I was able to finally start making choices, like real choices, like in understanding fully and completely, I am in control of these choices. So for me, the biggest, wildest dream from weight loss surgery was the weight loss surgery was that mechanism, or was that breaking point where I was able to say, wait, hold on, press pause, why am I doing this? Why am I turning to food for this particular feeling? Or why, if I'm stressed, why do I want to go have Mexican food? Kind of thing. That hasn't changed very much, but it's much smaller portions. But so in my wildest dreams, if you would have told me that there was going to be a point in my life where not only in weight loss surgery, but just across the board in my professional career, in my personal relationships, where you realize everything boils down to just making a choice, and you don't have to label things as good choices or bad choices and then beat yourself up if you think it's a bad choice or society says that it's a bad choice. Or if you make a good choice that's good for you and maybe not good for somebody else, that once you learn that the choices are just choices and they are just what they are, and to have that kind of feeling and sense of and control, never in my wildest dreams would I believe that I would have ever experienced that in my lifetime. So that's it. That's my